Welcome back to the FanSpeak Network. This is our first live best ball show and our first Friends of Best Ball show. I am Megan, and you can, of course, follow me at Megs08DFS on Twitter. And I am joined by my friend of best ball, Felix Castro. You can follow him at Crying Buffalo. And you should know Felix because he won the 2021 Best Ball MillyMaker on DraftKings. Felix, how are you doing today? And are you excited to talk some best ball with me?
I love talking best ball. I'm happy to be here.
Okay, well, I very much appreciate it. Again, you're our first friend of the FanSpeak Network to come on and talk best ball with me. I sincerely appreciate it. And what I wanted to talk to Felix about today was exposures, because I love how Felix makes big stands on exposures in best ball. He's not afraid to go way overweight on a player. That's why he had a massive success in 2021. You can discuss this a little bit more, but he went way overweight on Cooper Kupp, Jamar Chase. That was clearly the thing to do that year. You had, I believe I heard you talk about a 50% advance rate that year. Am I right?
Yes.
Yeah. So he had a 50% advance rate, which obviously gave him a lot of bullets to get on through the playoffs, made it. I'll be asking you more questions about then the semifinals, finals, and then obviously took down the MillyMaker that year. So I know you've been making, big stands since then. And I just want to talk about your process on getting there. But yes, thank you so much for joining us. Before we get started, as you come in, or if you're watching this on replay, hit the like button and subscribe to the FanSpeak Network, because we will have best ball shows every week. Sometimes it's my brother and I drafting live. Sometimes we'll be having Friends of Best Ball. Sometimes it's strategy stuff, but plenty of best ball content. The next 5 weeks, we're down to 38 days or something, Felix. It's exciting.
So fast.
I know. In May and June, I'm like, it's never going to get here.
It was it takes a whole week for the schedule to come out. Oh, it's taking so long. And then it's we're in training camp and it's about
right. And then all of a sudden you
blink on Thursday.
Yeah, and you blink. It's training camp. You blink again. There's first preseason game Thursday. You blink again. We're into preseason, and before you know it, thank God the NFL season is back, which I am so excited. So let's start at the beginning for you. You started. It was the 2021 NFL best ball season your first best ball season, or did you dabble in 2020?
I would say I barely dabbled in 2020, but I did get a little enough that I got the adrenaline to do it the next year, because once you do one draft and you don't ever have to set your lineups, that's all you ever want to do. I don't really play regular fantasy football anymore.
I have one family one that it's just a nice thing to do with family, and that's it, because the redraft days are over for me. I do play in the Scott Fish Bowl too, which goes to charity. Great contest with a lot of fantasy folks, but the redraft days are kind of over for me. I am fully a best ball girl, like you said. Once you go through one best ball season, especially once you have a little success, it is just infectious. And absolutely,
my first year went very poorly. So
I just dabbled in 2020, and actually just kind of dabbled in 2021. 2022 last year was my first one where I did a lot, and then I had about a 27% advance rate to playoffs. But I only did 9 shots at the BBM and made the finals. Nice. And so that was the really what got me. I mean, having that 3-week sweat is just absolutely insane. It's the best sweat ever. It really is. So if you're new to best ball, that would be a good time for me to say, if you're new to best ball, be sure to use the code FanSpeak on either Underdog, Drafters. You get 100% deposit bonus up to $100. So that's always nice and doesn't hurt. So let's talk about 2021, when you're going all in and you made these massive stands on Cooper Kupp and Jamar Chase. Why don't you tell the people what your stands were exactly? Because I don't want to speak for you, and then we can talk about how you got there.
So the ones that stood out were the Jamar Chase and Cooper Kupp, but the bigger stand was with Chris Godwin and Cooper Kupp, because they were going back to back.
Right.
And in the same round. So it was hard to get that combination of those two players. So I took a bunch of Cooper Kupp in the third and then Chris Godwin in the fourth. And then as soon as wherever it kind of came up, I was trying to get as much Jamar Chase. So I wasn't reaching as much on Jamar Chase, but he was falling to me a lot in the 5th to 6th round.
I was just going to ask, was it about 5th, 6th round?
Yeah. With 6th round, when the he can't see the laces.
He can't catch stuff.
I was I will let it go one more round. Other people were saying, I can get him to the 7th or 8th. Well, I was like, I'm not going to be that guy, because I will automatically take him in the 6th round.
Okay,
gotcha. At the very latest,
And that's kind of a best ball thing is like, the debate between trying to get that like perfect ADP value versus trying to, get your exposures to where you want them. And like, to me, I lean into, yes, I believe in ADP value and closing ADP. I get it. I get ADP value, but however, and I know but I also believe that the guys you're higher, because I know my rankings don't always align with ADP. And so I believe if you are higher on a guy, you should go get him, and I believe if you want to be overweight on a guy, like you said, in the case of like Jamar Chase, yeah, maybe on some of those drafts, you could have gotten him in round 7, but then maybe you wouldn't have been as high on Jamar Chase because he would have gotten taken in some of those drafts. Right.
Right. Yeah, that's exactly right. And it's also like when you're doing high exposures, you're also limiting to what you're getting around that area. So you have to kind of think in the concept of like, what don't like if you don't like a certain player or a certain amount of players in this area, it's okay to do that, but it's also tough when you like another person in that area.
Yeah,
and I didn't really care for that many people in that kind of range.
That helps when you don't love anybody else in that range, and then you're like, well, no, I'm always going to want to take him over, Chase over these other guys or whatever. So it was a big. So what percent were you on Godwin, Kupp, and Chase that year?
The Godwin Cup was more important to me. So that one was probably 70 to 80 with those guys. And then with Chase, it was probably like that combination was like 60%.
Okay. Gotcha. And so that's what I'm talking about. So people hear that and that sounds like a lot to people in the best ball space, but that's if you love a player and you especially love where they're going and think they're going to outperform that ADP or outperform that wide receiver, whatever, running back, whatever, then I absolutely love it because again, you're just making a bet on that. And if it doesn't work, if the player gets hurt, if the player underperforms, then it's not going to be as good. But if it goes well, that's what led to obviously the 50% advance rate that year. Obviously.
And the higher exposures towards the end of your drafts don't typically hurt you as bad. If it's closer to the beginning, you start to get hurt. For instance, last year I went heavy on Najee in the first round, and that tanked a lot of my teams. It was shooting myself in the foot right off the bat, and it's.
Well, but there's a reason because Najee was on your winning MillyMaker team, correct? If you want to tell that story, you can.
He was on the last play. He scored the touchdown to win the $1 million.
Exactly. We all know
he was a first round talent.
Exactly. And so if you play DFS, if you're now playing best ball, if this player's been good to you, you kind of always want to go back to the well there. So I totally
which is why I was high on Chris Godwin and Cooper Kupp 2 years prior. They won me 50,000. So
okay, gotcha.
So I took those.
Was that in a DFS contest? Okay,
yeah. They played each other and they went off that game.
Oh, okay. So you win 50K on Kupp and Godwin. You go heavy on them in best ball, and then again, Najee. Literally, the play Najee scored a touchdown to win you the $1 million. Then of course you're going to be heavy on Najee next year. That meaning last year, 2022. The high exposure Najee didn't work out last year, but again, it worked out in a lot of ways the year before. Now tell me your advance rate. I'm just curious still on that 2021 season and the winning season. So what was your advance rate to semifinals? And then what was your advance rate? Like how many finals teams did you have?
Okay. So I had, at one point I was at like 112 teams out of the 190 teams that I had.
Yeah.
And then when Derrick Henry hurt his foot that year, I can't remember what it was. I don't remember what the injury was called. But he hurt his foot, so it went all the way down to 80. So I took 80 teams into the playoffs.
Okay.
And the 80 from, I guess, that first week of the playoffs went down to 13.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, and for people who haven't played best ball,
that's 1 out of 12.
Yeah, you have to be 1 out of 12. And this year in BBM, you have to be 1 out of 16. So that's not weird. That's not weird at all. That is very normal.
To get wiped out. Yeah.
You get that's why I hear a lot of stuff in the best ball space about the debate about, do I want a highly correlated team to get to the playoffs and less of them? I want as many. Yes, exactly. Yes. And you and I are lockstep, fully in line. I want as many bullets into the playoffs. I want as many shots because anything can happen those 3 weeks. Then we're talking about, and you hear people say this, 3 uncorrelated DFS essentially tournaments, and anything can happen. So yes, I'm trying to correlate. I'm stacking teams. I'm doing all this stuff. And I know you had a big Tampa stack, right? Correct? In the winning team.
Yes.
Were you high on Tampa stacks with the Godwin teams a lot?
I was not.
Okay.
I was kind of actually light on general on most of them. I had a lot of Gronk teams as well, but I wasn't high on Tom Brady. I guess I was a little bit. I wasn't intentionally high on them because I had a lot of Fournette as well, but I wasn't high on Tom Brady for some reason. But so like one of my few Tom Brady teams got through. So
okay, gotcha.
I don't know why I wasn't high on them.
But back to the point. So you had about 80 of the playoffs, then it went down to 13, and then how many kind of bullets made it to the finals? Then
just one.
So just the one. So you had the one. Okay, and
that's
normal too. That's very.
It was my very worst team that made it to the finals because it barely outscored. It was my lowest scoring of the 13 of that week. Okay. I had most of my team scored 200 plus that week, but everybody else had T. Higgins, and I remember that vaguely because the next week Chase went off. So it was like T. Higgins had like 40 points, and Mark Andrews like scored a whole bunch. So I had a lot of Mark Andrews, but I didn't have the T. Higgins.
Got it.
I just remember scoring like 206, which is a pretty high score in best ball.
Yeah.
And it just everybody else had like 220, and it's like, but and then my one team, the only team that made it through scored like 140 points, and beat the last person by like a half a point, and it was like all that the other person had to do has that one catch from Devontae Parker, and he got shut out that game.
Wow. Okay.
And I was.
But that's what got this Millie team too.
That's what was the hardest sweat I'm like watching every single play because he catches one ball, like I'm done for the season.
Right. And, I mean, think about it now in hindsight. Devontae Parker catches one ball, you don't win $1 million, you don't go to the finals even. Yeah. That's what's wild. But then he doesn't. You go to the finals and you win. That's what's so wild about like just getting the teams to the playoffs, just getting the teams to the semis, to the finals. You got a shot, it's like it is for real football teams. If you make it to the dance, you got a shot to make it all the way through. So that's amazing. That is an amazing sweat.
And we all know now that Zach Wilson's not a very good quarterback. He got me through one of the rounds by a 60-yard touchdown run. So,
I like this story too.
Like everything that could have happened for that team to barely sneak through those first 2 rounds got me there, which ended up letting me have a very low owned Tampa stack because Tampa got shut out week 16.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So Tom Brady was 3% owned. Jamar Chase wasn't as owned as I thought he would have been because he was only like 8% owned. I had that team pulled up somewhere. It was a very low owned Tampa Bay stack, and they had a decent game, I guess.
Well, if they had a bad week 16, they're gonna, that'll kill off a lot of those Tampa stacks then. So
Tom Brady was 3.8% owned.
Wow.
Najee was 8%. Singletary, which is like random, was 18% owned. Chase was 10%. Amon-Ra St. Brown was 25% owned.
Okay.
And the Cooper Kupp, who was amazing through the entire playoffs, was 60% owned.
Right.
With the 6% owned Rob Gronkowski.
Right. And that's what I mean is, people talk about like chalk in best ball. Here's the thing. We don't know what's going to be chalk in best ball. Most of the guys are, owned as in drafted. We don't know what's going to be chalk to the playoffs because it depends on how they perform. And if they stay healthy, we don't know what's going to be chalk or contrarian, owned in the finals because it all depends on, like you said, Tampa was bad week 16 that year. Yeah. They come in low owned to the finals. And this goes to my point, and I know we're focusing on exposures, but I will take to your point, because you and I have discussed this about the whole 3 quarterback thing, because that was a 3 quarterback team. So it was Tom Brady, Zach Wilson, and who was your third?
Jared Goff.
Jared Goff. Oh, my God. This is my guy.
Pairing with
Amon-Ra. Yeah. Right. Okay. Gotcha. So that is kind of why a lot of people would say, well, Zach Wilson's never going to outscore, Brady. And it's like, you hear that and you're like, right. Yeah. Football, it always goes exactly how we think, right? No, It doesn't go exactly how we think. Like last year, if you would have said the finals, you needed Daniel Jones and Tom Brady again, I wouldn't have necessarily thought that over, Mahomes and all the other studs on the quarterback. So with that said, they're, even if you draft Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Jalen Hurts, they can have down weeks. I sometimes point to like, hey, sometimes maybe it's because of weather. Maybe it's because of tough performance. Maybe, injuries pop up. Something, it's, crazy stuff happens week to week. And so like, if you have 3 stacks, maybe those other 2 stacks can help push through than a low-owned Mahomes or Hurts or Allen or Lamar or something like that. And that's why sometimes I don't do it every time. To believe me, I do plenty of builds with elite QBs where I do just do 2 elite QBs, and same with Kelsey. I'll do some builds with Kelsey where I'll just do 2 tight ends. But I do see the point, and generally my 3 QB is way higher on definitely DraftKings and even Underdog, because it just gives you 3 stacks fully through the season to try to advance you into playoffs. Again, we want more bullets in the playoffs, and then it gives you 3 stacks in the playoffs. Even if an elite QB, then you have 2 other stacks to potentially push through an elite QB, and that is just massive. So I just wanted to take a point to point that out, because I mean Zach Wilson outscoring those guys.
Yeah, it was just unbelievable to me. Yeah, and Jared Goff, he was so looked down upon that year.
Right, that year,
the worst quarterback. So he was like almost what people are doing to Baker Mayfield in a weird sense. Like, oh, he's so bad. He's on this new team. He can't do anything. It's like
he'll be out of the league soon. Yeah,
and he was like
just wrote him off.
Right. In a sense, that's what he was like. But you've got me on. Like, I wasn't really drafting 3 quarterbacks. If it came up like a good value or something, I was drafting it. But I've been listening to you for I think 2 months now, like on a pretty regular.
Well, I appreciate it. You're always in our run
I'm like, I have to do 3 quarterbacks. It just feels better. I feel safer.
I feel safer. And it's not like I'm not saying to do it abusively draft capital wise. Like, you have to do it smart. You still have to watch the draft capital. It's not like you're going to draft like Mahomes, Burrow, and Dak Prescott. You would obviously space your draft capital out with
I like later quarterbacks. Like, I love Jordan Love. I like
Derek you're very high on the Packers. Yes, I know.
And Jared Goff. So there's always a good set of like 3 quarterbacks back there.
Right.
And if I get Herbert, I don't mind still doing it with 3.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Herbert's probably one of my favorite. I'm putting him in the elite tier this year.
He's at the back end of the elite tier, which is also what I like. It's like you're getting the elite quarterback,
but it's attainable. Those
3 round difference. And it's like,
I mean, that's a lot of like opportunity costs with a Mahomes, Hurts, Allen. Do I think they're elite? Of course I do. Do I love their floor ceiling combo? That's amazing. But listen, when I can get 3 rounds later, Herbert, and oh, by the way, he's so easy to stack with at least one of his guys. Then you can get Everett later. Maybe you got Eckler early. Whatever the case is, you can easily get Herbert with 2 to 3 of his guys easily without forcing it. And I really, really love that. So he definitely is my favorite, and I do a lot of 3 quarterbacks with him. So love the 3 quarterback thing. But back to the exposures thing. So obviously it worked out in 2021. That's an amazing story. Being overweight on Godwin and Kupp and Chase was huge too, obviously, for that finals team to win. How much Najee exposure did you have that year? Just out of curiosity.
Not very much.
Not much. Okay.
It was only whenever he kind of fell a little bit. But in that case, I went to the 12-13 pick because it had Nick Chubb on it. And he was like, I love Nick Chubb that year. So kind of thing. I like the big backs that year.
Right.
And I remember getting Nick Chubb and Najee, like, occasionally week 17 wasn't a thing for me. So I didn't even know that they were playing each other that year.
Right.
But it worked out that he was my 12-13 pick.
Okay. So now let's fast forward to 2022 season. Who were your biggest stands? I know Najee, was your biggest stand because he was good to you. What percent were you, and who else were your biggest stands last year?
So Najee was my biggest stand. I had a lot of misses last year, but I did have some good hits. But my biggest misses were Najee, Zach Wilson, Trey Lance, and Elijah Moore. Elijah Moore was with Zach Wilson. Yeah, so I was smashing those 2 together.
Right.
And then I had Trey Lance, who I thought, which I think he got the short end of the straw for breaking.
You got injured.
Week 2.
You got injured. Yeah.
So I was going through quarterbacks with him and Zach, and occasionally with Josh Allen, which he ended up getting hurt too. So it's like my kind of season went downhill, but I did have a lot of shares of ASB, Jahan Dotson.
Yeah.
And those teams kind of turned out okay. I only had one Josh Jacobs team, and that team got to like the top 500 of the highest scoring.
Right. Okay.
So I kept seeing my name up there. I'm like, okay, so like I still got a shot, but my guy King Cap ended up taking it down. But
okay, so this was on Underdog.
Which would have been nice that this year would have been able. Yeah, sorry, on Underdog. Last year on DraftKings, I didn't. so poorly. I made one team and it made it to the finals, and that was about it. So,
but you still had a finals team last year,
yes,
so that's exciting.
Well, Derek Carr quit on me that week. Derek Carr, Derrick Henry. I did not catch any luck for, and then I had Gabe Davis, which that game got shut down. That team just hit every miss that you could have that week.
Right. Okay. So fast forward to then this year. Who are your biggest stands? I know one of them, but who are your biggest stands this year?
My biggest stands on DraftKings are Derrick Henry, Jordan Love, Christian Watson, and Luke Musgrave, Sammy Laporta. Right. Well, Sammy Laporta is coming up.
Love the Sammy Laporta. Love it.
Yeah. Yes. And so pretty much the Chargers, the Packers, and the Saints are all kind of like up there for my exposures this year. I would this year more than last 2 years. I kind of went into the strength of schedule, and I, like we were talking about, we want as many bullets as we can to get into the playoffs.
Exactly.
And my theory is that I know I draft typically later guys that do later in the season. So drafting people with good strength of schedules may help get more of those teams into the playoffs. And I'm building probably most of my lineups the same way. And the way I look at it is like, if you build a DFS lineup, you don't want to build 150 different lineups, like completely different. You're probably not going to win that way.
No.
I like to build like a lot of my teams very, very similar, but with like a different piece and a different piece here, like different prices and whatnot. And my theory is that nobody talks about like the most important thing, and it's those week 15 and week 16 pods. Mm-hmm. You could get into the easiest pod, or you can get into the hardest pod. Well, you want as many shots at that as you can, because when you get into those pods, you don't know what you're getting into. So
exactly, you don't know who you're paired with.
Your best team could be set up for failure if you drafted that same team. One team could advance and one team may not. So in my head, I'm like, if I can build as many teams that I think that are good, that can get into the playoffs, maybe I get more teams to advance to each round.
Right. I like that, because you make a really good point that, like, about the whole quarterfinals, semifinals, and to your point about like your lowest scoring, team going in to, it was the one that made it. There were higher scoring teams that you had. They were just against other higher scoring teams. And so you don't know who you're going to be paired with. So your point is basically, let me just go heavier on these guys. So that way, if they do well, it's not like just the bad luck that combo just didn't do well in a tough pod, basically. Right.
Yes. Yeah, that's exactly it.
Okay.
Because last year I had such great teams in the playoffs. I was just being outscored by 4 or 5 points, and I was like scoring 200s, and it's just like, it's frustrating to see that, and just like, I'm down to one team in the finals again. But I got one there, I guess, but it's tough.
Right. Okay. So you're high on Jordan Love and the Packers. Do you want to give the percents that you are on these guys, if you don't mind?
Yeah, absolutely. On Jordan Love, on DK, I'm at 44%. And then on Underdog, I am currently sitting at 43%. Oh, interesting. About pretty much both 44%. It's 43.8 on DraftKings.
And so do you have a lot of his weapons then too?
Yes. I am huge on Luke Musgrave. I think with nobody else there, he's going to get a lot of open.
I've been saying this the whole time too. I love it, Felix. This is great.
And then 50% Christian Watson right now on Underdog, and 60% on DraftKings. My main theory is that I want another. What I'm going back to is like Chris Godwin, Cooper Kupp type of deal. They're both like very close to each other in ADP. So the combination of those two players is going to be a lot smaller than if you were to get like two people that are next to each other at the end of like the turns. I wanted two people in the in the fourth round that are right next to each other that I both think could be breakout players. And so I'm going to have a big combination of these two guys, and I'm going to take Najee a little bit early this year, but I'm going to have a bunch of Christian Watson to go with him.
Gotcha. Okay, so you like having guys kind of that go around each other then?
Yeah, because then you get yourself a unique combination and potentially like a breakout season from both.
Okay.
We're gambling, but we are gambling.
We are. That is what we're doing. Yeah, exactly. But we're making, educated decisions. There's reasons why you believe. You said you're pointing to strength of schedule on the Packers. I gave a sales pitch on a Run Pure show today on Najee. What's your sales pitch on Najee? And talk about your exposure to Najee.
I heard I was there on the DK contest show, right? That's what
Run Pure show on Run Pure Sports. We did a first look for the DK.
That's right.
Yes.
And I was in lockstep with you. That improved offensive line. They added Darnell Washington, who, no offense to Pat Freiermuth, has been dealt with concussions. And I know that's not predictive, but at the same time, it kind of seems to happen to the same people.
Right.
But so Darnell Washington may get in more opportunity early on. Mm-hmm. Which he's an offensive lineman. He's a big guy. So it's only going to help Najee in the run game. And they've done when Najee got the pin taken out of his foot last year, he got his workload increased.
Right.
His points, he was a top 10 running back every week for the last 6 weeks that year. I don't know what the case is against him other than his yard per carry and his yard after contact, I think, was bad over the entire year.
Right. But I think, to your point, he got more of a workload and he looked better after he got the pin out. He improved last year after that.
And I also think that it's not a bad thing to have Jaylen Warren there. It's so he doesn't get overworked and he doesn't.
Right.
I think it only helps Najee.
Right. Yeah, I've drafted some Jaylen Warren late, but I'm with you. I just like Najee for where he's going. A lot of people just love Warren, want to go heavy on him, and then are fading Najee, lets Najee fall in a lot of drafts.
Yeah.
So again, you have I believe 79% exposure to Najee, correct?
On DraftKings I have 79%, and on Underdog I believe it's it's 77 on
I like it. I love it. So again, to get guys, and I kind of talked about this on the Run Pure show today, to get guys that are early, because again, we can go. I'm 52% Sam Laporta or something along those lines. That's easier to get because he's later. So to get guys earlier, you have to make bigger moves, make bigger stands, and sometimes go above ADP. So you basically are just saying, if Najee's there, I'm taking him, whether it's late second round, third round, that kind of stuff. He's not going to fall past third round for you, basically, right?
Right. He's not falling past the third round. And even now, he's not even getting to me in the fourth, to the third round, or at certain picks. I've realized if I draft between 1 through 6, I need to get him in the second sometimes. Or I guess if it's 1 through 3, I should get him in the second because he's not going to make it back to me in the third, fourth with Christian Watson coming back, because Christian Watson is the harder person to get in that case.
Right.
But I don't know. It's pretty tough. So sometimes if I get Chase, I'll end up going Najee in the second, Christian Watson in the third. Therefore I can have a shot at TJ Hawkinson. And if he's not there, I can go Mike Williams or Justin Herbert or Chase and Burrow. So it gives me a lot of different options. I feel I'm not, when I'm fading the third round in general, I'm feeding people like Mark Andrews, who's a great tight end, but as we know, there's only one elite tight end, and
exactly,
and he's above and beyond. And you could find it with more tight ends, I guess, later. Yeah, and then Keenan Allen, I love the Chargers, and I love Keenan Allen as a player and as a person, but I don't want him on my fantasy teams. I don't feel good for those hamstrings, and so I don't mind fading that whole third round this year.
Right. Okay. So I was going to say, especially when you don't love the guys around them. We kind of talked about this, going, over ADP, ahead of ADP to get your guy. And again, you're going to have to do that. If you want 70% of a guy, you're going to have to do that. But again, if Najee massively outperforms that, it plays like a second, who knows, he could play like a first round pick, then that was absolutely the right decision. Right.
Let's just think about everybody that's in the third right now. It's Josh Jacobs. He's got so many issues right now. Mm-hmm. It's now Jonathan Taylor who's in the third round now, and it's I don't want to touch that. Yeah, it's who you you got to look at who you're fading as well as who you want. If who you want is worth it, then I think it makes sense to do what I'm doing.
Right. Absolutely. No, and I talk, I joked when I first started doing the Run Pure Sports like live drafts every Monday, which is every Monday and Wednesday. And then I do a live draft with my brother each week too. I'll talk a lot about diversifying exposures. I talk about that like I just don't want to have like all the same, like I do want to diversify my exposures to a certain extent with it's hard to explain. I'm trying to think how to explain it because I also it's hard to explain. It feels like I'm talking out both sides of my mouth because I do believe in fading. I do believe on going overweight.
Yeah.
But I also do believe in diversifying exposures a little bit too. It's hard to explain how that.
I agree with
you.
I understand. I completely get it. It's like see for me, it's like I want to diversify my exposure right after I get Najee and Christian Watson. I like different players at different spots, and I think if you get a falling value, it's okay to diversify your polo. Like for me, that's how I'm treating it. It's like. I want as many.
You're saying it way better than I am. Yeah,
I want as many combinations with Najee and Christian Watson as I can get. Like for instance, that team that I ended up winning with, it was like a total Tampa Bay onslaught. I wasn't like going out of my way to get a Tampa Bay onslaught with every time I got those three players. It just happens to be those three players, happen to be on that same exact team.
Right. No, but and I'll talk about the onslaught in a minute before we jump in, and we will do a live draft. But I agree that, you explained it way better than I did in that you make your fades, you make your stands, you go overweight on certain players, but then you diversify around them. So then you have different combos around the guys that you're all in on.
Yeah, I had no idea that Tampa Bay was going to be one of the leading scoring offenses that year, which was
which was awesome. Yeah, exactly. Yes. And so, and I also mean diversify exposures to strategies, because if you do only zero RB or only double hero RB or only that, then you're it's going to be hard to you're going to keep landing on this exact same range. So I've had people to ask me, well, I feel like I'm always landing on the same guys. And I'll say, well, try a different strategy build, because a different strategy build will absolutely put you onto different guys just naturally.
I feel like people should adjust their ranks. If they don't do somebody else's ranks, adjust their ranks. It puts you in a different spot. It gives you I'm now doing mine every day. Before I usually do it once a week, but now I'm going to start doing it every day because of camp news and whatnot. But for instance, like everybody else might have a share of like Ezekiel Elliott. I hate Ezekiel Elliott.
Do you? I got a lot earlier. I haven't done as much lately.
I don't like him as a player. I don't think he's very good, and I think he's kind of lost it personally. So what I do is like I don't ever want to have the feeling that I need to take somebody as well. Right. So I just put him at 250, and I just put him. I don't want to see him. So that player is gone to me. Like someone else can have him, and it's like you don't have this fear of missing out on a certain player as well.
Exactly. And you don't want to have the FOMO. And I had that last year. I've talked about that, how I struggled with my August drafts because I had that FOMO of people, what they're talking about Twitter. And I'm trying to put more context behind news and camp news and everything, because you shouldn't just have FOMO. It should just be, these are my rankings. And
we talked about a certain tool that's out there. That was what I was trying to get at. It's like, I had this weird FOMO of all these combinations I didn't have. And I was reaching for things that players I didn't like
that you didn't even like as well. Yeah, exactly. So when I say diversify, especially diversify later, diversify your strategy portfolio, because that will naturally put you on different combos, but don't be afraid to fade. I literally, nobody's going to want to take best ball advice from me after they hear this, but I faded Josh Jacobs and Jalen Hurts last year. So faded both of them, and I still made the finals with 9 bullets in the BBM. So it can happen, because again, the two things have to happen. You have to be right on your players, and then those guys just can't go nuclear in the playoffs. And in the case of Josh Jacobs, as amazing of a season he did not have a great playoffs, I think, until maybe the last week. And then Jalen Hurts was obviously injured for 2 out of the 3 playoff weeks. So, it didn't hurt me.
We also can't just take every word that happens in the preseason to heart. We got to take a breather, reevaluate. Does it actually mean something?
That's what I'm trying to do this year about context. My favorite one so far was the Ravens report about Flowers. And if you like Zay Flowers, if anybody likes Zay Flowers, great. That's great. No, if he looks great, that's awesome. But the report about he's the best guy out here and it's not even close. And it's like, well, but they said that on the day that Bateman and Beckham aren't practicing. So it's okay, but who's he better than, And so just like, that's just one example of put context behind it. That would have been something last year where I had been like, oh my God, for the next 10 drafts, I have to draft Zay Flowers. I have FOMO, and so that's what it like you said, just be careful with that kind of stuff and put context.
Johnson dropping passes. That's just a part of his game. And if it wasn't, like,
right,
it's okay. Like, that's not why you're drafting him. You're drafting him because, he has amazing ability to blow up. Like, he has like this huge spiking potential.
Right. Exactly. I do probably need to get more of him in my Herbert stacks. But one last thing before we get into a draft, your Tampa Bay onslaught did exactly what my favorite thing is too. And I know this doesn't necessarily, relate to
I think we're on the same page here. It bounces off of each other.
Yes. So if you draft quarterback, running back, or my favorite is getting 4 from a team and then 1 in each position, quarterback, running back, receiver, tight end. And that way it's not like all the receivers, because then they're not like cannibalizing each other.
Right,
they're not cannibalizing each other. They ping pong off each other nicely through the season. And then they can also ping pong off each other through the playoffs. So say you draft Josh Allen, Damian Harris, I use this example a lot, Gabe Davis, and Dalton Kincaid. Say Josh Allen, the passing game has a bad week, but Damian Harris gets 2 or 3 touchdowns. He pushes your Josh Allen stacks through. Okay, then Josh Allen passing game goes nuclear, and you have a lower. That's the kind of stuff that can work.
Yeah, I'm doing that a lot with the Packers this year. I have a lot of AJ Dillon, a lot of love.
I like it.
It's like I have 1 from each position from that team. I have some Romeo Doubs and I have some Jaden Reed, but I'm more going with just 1 from each of those positions. And I believe in that offense this year. And I know that it's like the unknown. You're believing in the unknown, and that's what I like to do. I like to take a bet on something that is the unknown.
Yeah, and I think that's great, especially like being so high on Luke Musgrave. Big deal. He's like what, a 17th round pick. Yeah, last round guy. So again, like it's certainly less risky when you do it with the high ownership on the later round guys, but no matter where it is. But that's what I love in the onslaughts too, is you can get them. Usually the draft capital is spread out, which is nice too. My BBM 3 team last year had Dak Prescott, Ezekiel Elliott. He was actually 4th or 5th round last year. And then Gallup later coming back from injury, and then Dalton Schultz. So it was very still spread out. And I think that's key. So anyways, I think this was a great conversation on exposures. I could honestly talk to you about this all day long. Do you have any final tips for me or others on exposures, or like a couple? Like I do want a lot of combos with Herbert stacks. I do want, I'm very high on Nick Chubb potentially being RB1. Like, does it just draft him more in the first round? Is it just, making sure to try to get those combos? Like, what are your tips for me personally? If I, speaking of just a couple of players, I'm high on the Lions, but I go that's later.
I would say if you like a certain set of players in the like 3rd or 4th round, maybe take a couple of chances. I mean, this is it may be a different contest, obviously, and just try to get as much of that combination as I could. Try to get like that combo. Like last year, I also did the first year. I went heavy RB in the Puppy one, and it was Javonte, Najee, and Nick Chubb, and I got as much of those, like that set of running backs in every draft I could. And it's like then I had 100%. I had 99 or 90, whatever. 1 out of 150 teams, or 149 out of the 150 had Nico Collins in it.
Okay.
He wasn't being drafted at that point. I don't know why, but he wasn't. And so I was like, I had 149 out of 150 lineups with him in there. And it's like I had that core, and I made everything else around it different. And it's like, and I'm not saying you have to do 149, but I'm just saying, like, find a combination of players that you like, maybe in the time box contest, and just draft that and see if you like those teams. And if not, then bring that into your BBM4 and see how you like it.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. A little bit more of that. Because like if you draft some players in the same area, it gives you different, like, players that are like 6 and 7. Like if hypothetically, let's say what's in that the 2nd or 3rd round, 15 and 16. Like if you're taking players 15 and 16, not a lot of people are going to have. Weirdly enough, that actually happened this year when I was taking ASB and Waddle or Garrett Wilson. I was taking that combination. I was taking Amon-Ra in the 1st round, and then I was taking them earlier before Amon-Ra was like going in in the first round. He's occasionally going the first round now. Actually got him in the late second today or yesterday, and I thought it was kind of weird, but
that's crazy. Yeah, no, that's definitely good value. So would you recommend, okay, if I have like a bullish stand on Nick Chubb, even though I do love a lot of the other guys in the first round, obviously, would you say, and I have a very bullish stand on the Chargers, would you say to try to get a lot of combos of different Charger stacks with Nick Chubb? Would you like just go ahead and reach for Nick Chubb in round, like late round one, if I have a late round one pick?
Yeah, I mean, I know that you like Nick Chubb, and I would also agree. Yes, it is a little tough because they do have the week 5 buys, and I guess
that is true. Yeah,
they you are technically supplanting Austin Eckler for Nick Chubb in that aspect, because
that's true.
He is your running back with the week 5 buy. That could be your team onslaught in a weird way if you think about it that way.
That's a great point. Yeah,
Nick Chubb is your week 5 to go on with your Chargers week 5s.
Right.
In your head like that. I know it's not the same, but it's like that's how you.
That makes sense, though. Yeah, that makes sense because you made a good point. The guys I just mentioned are week 5. So, okay. Any final thoughts on exposure before we jump into a draft?
Well, let's do it.
All right, let me pull that in. Is my Wi-Fi is acting so weird? So I apologize. Have you been able to hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's like a one time I think you cut out, but like that was one once.
Okay. Let me bring this in. Okay, let me check my Wi-Fi first. Okay, I will count us down. Are you ready? Okay, 3, 2, 1, go.
All right.
Okay.
Awesome. Yep, we're good.
We're good. Okay, waiting for 6 people, and then we will draft this. I'm looking forward to it. I didn't even realize we had comments. I was so focused on my conversation with you. I highly apologize. So thank you so much for people in the chat and the comments. While we're waiting, we will jump in and grab these. Is this the Jahmyr Gibbs advocacy group meeting? Are you in on Jahmyr Gibbs?
I know my guy Michael Kaya is. Is that? Oh, these are my guys right here. Dan, definitely. Okay. Dennis and Michael Kaya. These are my people. And
I love it. Well, thank you guys for joining us. I appreciate that. And I'm so sorry I didn't grab these.
I was on the private chat tab. I'm not used to being a guest. I know that we had this conversation.
Yeah. Well, I'm not. I haven't pushed one live on Fanspeak. So again, I apologize for not. So we are starting in 55 seconds, and I got the 101. I'll be damned. I'll be there. Yeah. As we're.
I got the 112.
Okay, so we're opposite. We're literally on opposite sides here.
Paul, Mr. Inverted, in here.
Oh, nice. Okay.
He's sitting at the 10 spot.
Very nice. Okay.
I don't recognize any of these other names.
Yeah, I was just going to say I've been in drafts with him before, I believe, but I don't recognize.
He sends me an invite for every 555.
Does he? That's great.
Yeah. We drafted 2 back to 555s back together, back to back, and I got the 1 spot, and he got the 2 spot, and then he got the 1 spot, and I ended up getting the 2 spot. So like we went back to back drafts, and we had 1 and 2.
Okay, nice. I love that you guys sent each other invites. That's awesome. Yeah. Okay, draft is starting. I will go ahead and be boring, but
no, that makes sense.
Do the Justin Jefferson move there.
Are you fading anybody from the first round?
This is an appropriate show to talk about fades. The first round fade, I'm trying to look at the guys that literally have first round grade. I don't know if you'd consider Bijan a first round, but I really don't have much. I have him in some of the other time box contests. And I don't have much Diggs at all. I love Stephon Diggs. I love Buffalo, but just the draft capital that you spend on Diggs, I would rather stack Josh Allen later as opposed to grabbing Diggs. Listen, I know he finished, I think, wide receiver 5 last year, even with 1 less game. So I know all the points for Diggs. It's just I love so many other guys in the first round. And now, as we just talked about, I'm loving guys like Nick Chubb in the second round that I want to grab in the first round. So That's the tough thing. So I'd say Bijan and Diggs are the 2 that I don't have much at all. How about you?
I'm fading Kelsey 100%. I know that it's probably not the plus EV move based on what he's done this past few years, but he's kind of fall apart one time, and I'd rather be on the
early side of it.
The early side of it, yeah. And maybe not even like him not being dominant is a win for me. Is the way I look at it. If he's like closer to everybody else, that's a win. And,
right. Exactly. And again, these fades you just have to be right on your stands, and they just can't kill you in the playoffs. So, I totally get it. So Dennis is one of your guys.
Yes,
thank you, Dennis, for joining us. I appreciate all these comments and a lot of your folks joining us. He said getting burned in the DK drafts. How about you? DK, definitely the ADPs are a little more wild over there, I would say.
Oh boy, they're something else. And I got Cup or something at 9 when I first started, and I was like, oh, I forgot what it was like to draft over here, because you get so used to drafting over on Underdog where everybody sticks to ADP unless there's a bit of news and then it changes. And it's like nobody drafts outside of ADP really, except me, and at least that's what it feels like.
Yeah.
And
you're like, I'm not going to follow the rules here, people. I'm going to be my guy. Yeah.
I do my thing. Yeah. I think ADP is meant for, it's just meant there so you don't know, like, so that everybody has a draft position in my head. Like,
right.
I just want the players that I like, and I don't really want to.
Again, at the end of the day, I keep saying this: your guy just has to outperform that and outperform in playoffs, and I think that's why I think it's totally fine to make fades and big stands. Jewish McCaffrey says currently 120% Najee. I've seen him tweet you about Najee. I saw him tweet yesterday. It was hilarious. The tweet about Jonathan Taylor and the other guys, and it was like, Felix is sitting pretty now, so I like that. What do you think about this, since you're high on Watson? The Romeo Dubs Jordan Love connection.
So I was actually high on both of those receivers going into the preseason last year before they got drafted. And Dubs doesn't break tackles. And I feel like a lot of people have this perception of him as like a good route runner and whatnot. In Nevada, he was just the deep fly guy, the Gabe Davis of the team.
Davis. That makes sense. That's a good,
which nobody's season has. So I'm like, I'm okay with Dubs being, having a good connection. I like Dubs. I just love Watson more.
Right. And sometimes that's what it comes down to. Of course I love Stephon Diggs. I just, like the value you get for I'm very high on Dalton Kincaid being the kind of the slot receiver, the big Cole Beasley this year.
I think Gabe has a breakout season as well this year.
Yeah, and I like Gabe Davis for where he's going. He could literally perform the way he did last year and be a good value.
Way better, yeah.
Okay, am I in the minority if I think Deshaun Watson is going to be allowed to throw 700 times this year? Where do you stand on Deshaun?
I'm indifferent. Like if I get Elijah Moore and it falls back to me without a quarterback, if I don't have Herbert, because again, the week 5 buys kind of scare me. But if I don't have Herbert and I get Elijah Moore and then he falls to me, and then I take him. But he's been going earlier and earlier and earlier, and I just don't want to chase that price.
Yeah. No, I get that. I got a lot of him earlier and haven't gotten as much lately.
My very first draft was amazing. I had him. Oh, I gotta read you the team. It was so good. I had him. I had Najee. No, I didn't get Najee on that team. I had a bunch of great receivers. I had Garrett Wilson. I had Justin Jefferson at pick 4. It was a good draft.
Now, I haven't done this before. I did Justin Jefferson, and then I'm pairing him with Mahomes, which I think is just different. One time I paired him with Allen. I think I paired him with Hurts. So I want to pair him with the different elites as opposed to just and I am just very, very bullish on Calvin Ridley this year. So I've been that's another thing I'm trying to make a stand on Ridley.
Yeah, everybody loves Ridley. Something about it just doesn't feel.
You're not comfortable yet on. You're not like okay.
And I understand like Kurt would say he's going to be like chalk in that first game, and I'm like I'm not. I guess I'm just not going to be chalk first week. I don't know. I know that he wasn't just sitting on his couch and whatnot. I didn't believe in that narrative, but I didn't like him the year he left.
Okay.
I guess.
Okay.
And I thought he was decreasing as a player already. So maybe it was due to the mental aspect, but it's like I saw his play decrease a little bit that year, and I'm like, I don't want to make an investment in that guy who's going where he was going before he left. He was going in the second, third round when he left, and he's still going there.
Right.
I don't know if that's. I don't know. Maybe it is right because it was Matt Ryan throwing him the ball.
Right.
So
right.
That team had Justin Jefferson, Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, Mike Williams, Christian Watson at receiver, and Deshaun Watson and Elijah Moore. It felt really good to have those receivers on that team.
Yeah. Absolutely. In hindsight, I probably should have taken Higgins with the whole Mahomes thing. I don't force the week 17, but again, we were talking about exposures. I wanted to kind of make a stand on one of my exposure that I'm trying to get up in. Higgins was there when I was up.
Sure?
Now, hold on, let me see. Actually, maybe you're right.
I don't think he was there.
You're right. You're right. He went right before me, 22, and then it went Hurts. Then I took Mahomes, then Ridley. You're right. Absolutely. I had him queued, thinking about him, and then I
that makes sense.
Yeah. So you started out Garrett Wilson, Amon-Ra. I love that at the turn. Those are both two guys that I'm trying to get heavier on. I do not have enough of either, quite honestly. So that needs to be something I'm cognizant about.
I do like also that their quarterbacks go later. I'm going to get my number one wide receiver with a later quarterback.
Yes.
Which is nice. I don't have to spend up for a Hurts and AJ Brown kind of deal. I can kind of still diversify what I want to get earlier on.
Exactly. As much as I love, and I know I did an elite quarterback here, as much as I love the elite quarterbacks, we talked about it, whether it's, yes, I love the 3 quarterback builds too, but I just love the way I feel so good about the way a team looks when I, in the first 10 rounds, get 1 quarterback, 3 or 4 running backs, and 5 or 6 receivers. So I'm fine with a 1-4-5. I feel like you have such solid foundation for a great team. So I'm not sure. What's your favorite build? Your first 10 picks?
I was going to see a 1-4-5 or a 1-3 or a 1-3-4-1.
1-3-4-1. Yeah.
I only say that because I ended up with one of those today. I had it was a Jamar Chase, Joe Burrow, Najee, and I forget, and TJ Hawkinson was my first 5 picks. It was
right.
So the Bengal stack and the hold on, let me get Najee here and Christian Watson.
Hey, got Najee. There we go. Perfect. I love it. And there it is.
Yeah.
How perfect that we talk about it and we execute.
Now, again, their ADPs are a little off, but so they technically Najee goes 2 picks past this area, and Christian Watson goes 3 picks past this area. So in the middle of the 4th round, it's kind of hard to get that combination of players unless you're directly trying to get those 2 players, which is why I think it's a unique combination.
Yes.
What was I trying to say? I was saying something about I had Jamar Chase with Joe Burrow, and then I always try to get Najee with JSN, who I'm really high on this year. It feels like it was 2 years ago where I'm getting Najee, Christian Watson, and then I'm really hoping to get JSN in the late 5th, early 6th kind of thing.
Gotcha. I was going to say, what's your stand on those kind of unique combos? I know I've talked about that a little bit. I don't force trying to get over unique or over galaxy braining it, but I know sometimes, obviously I could have gone, just 3 receivers, and one of them, if Higgins was there, one of them was Higgins. That's going to be pretty popular, Jefferson, Higgins, something, and then trying to get
hard to get unique at the corner spots.
I feel
especially at the one spot. It's hard to get unique. I mean, I think the way I do it, it's very unique because if that's the case, I have to go Christian Watson and Najee, especially on Underdog, because there's no way both of those guys are going to make it back to me. So I have to go with that combination early and then potentially get TJ Hawkinson. But most of the time, you're going to see a double running back or an elite quarterback. I've seen double elite quarterback right there. Mm-hmm. And it's there's unique ways, but I haven't seen a set way that just blows every other way out of the water.
Yeah, exactly. I like just mixing it up from the one spot. That's where I try to diversify who I have Jefferson with, essentially. So I'm coming up here trying to decide what I want to do. 13-9.
There you have. Yeah, that's definitely.
All right. I think I'm going to get more Mike Williams shares. I just, even though I'm not going to go Herbert in this one, I still like grabbing Williams. And then This probably.
I personally would go TJ, but that's just how I usually go.
You know what? I might do this. I think that's unique because you're doing a kind of elite tight end, elite quarterback, but not with the people you'd think.
Because normally Mahomes goes with Kelsey. Typically, the person that drafts Kelsey gets Mahomes. So you're going to have an elite tight end, and you have the chance for a double stack with your most. And I know it's a very common combo with Justin Jefferson is to get Kirk Cousins, but not very many Kirk Cousins are also with
Hawkinson.
Hawkinson as with you're not going to have a Mahomes Kirk Cousin with Jefferson Kirk Cousins.
Exactly. I like that. I absolutely like that. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
And if it is duplicated, it doesn't mean it's going to get to the
no.
Every pod is so different. That's my whole thing. Is like it could be the most chalky team ever. It doesn't matter.
Exactly.
All that matters is like who your pod up against.
Exactly. First of all, if it's chalky in playoffs, that means you were right and it was good. That's number one. You're naturally probably going to get some low end pieces through. You're naturally probably going to get some, unique combos through. I think people do try to galaxy brain the unique combos a little too much, but I will say I do like what you suggest and what I was able to do with that. So I do think that's unique. But like you said, you have no idea what's going to be in the combo in the pod you'll be in the playoffs, so that's a good point.
My friend Michael here
I love
Jahmyr Gibbs.
I love it.
He's been trying to get me on Jahmyr Gibbs, but it's like I can't take Jahmyr Gibbs and Najee, so only if somebody else takes Najee, then I'll substitute it for Jahmyr Gibbs.
I probably need to get some more Gibbs, especially on
it's so funny.
DraftKings.
We love. I mean, I'm assuming you love the Detroit Lions just as much as I do. It's like and it's like why am I not getting more?
I know. I asked myself that. It's the price, right? For me, it's the price on Gibbs. I think he's going to be a great talent. I think he could be a great weapon in that offense. It's just I like taking David Montgomery 4 or 5 rounds later, and his price has gone up. But I just like taking the discount on Montgomery. But with that said, I see how Gibbs could be a huge weapon. I probably do need to get more,
especially earlier on. Like even with I could see them running David Montgomery at the primary back and then putting Jahmyr Gibbs not as a slot guy, but like out of the backfield, maybe set it up at tight end, but but not play tight end, obviously, but like have them in the setback tight end spot,
right?
Where they both are on the field. I don't know. They're very creative over in Detroit, so
right. Okay, so you're coming up again.
Yeah, and I don't have. Justin Herbert was there. If it's 60, I was going to take.
That
is okay. So I'm thinking about Gabe Davis here because I know he won't make it back to me all the way.
Right. Yeah.
All the way back around.
Yeah, that's what's hard when you're at the either turn, you kind of.
Yeah. Actually, I'm going to go with 2 guys that won't make it back to me. So I was debating between Jordan Addison and Kyle Pitts here.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that I'm being swayed by what I saw today and that quarterback play.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And I know I shouldn't be, but I also really like Jordan Addison as a player and coming out. I feel like he has the upside of Amari Cooper's rookie year, where it's just like very solid production. Nothing flashy, like with the guy he plays, just very solid. And in that offense, they're going to pass a lot. So
right. Oh, absolutely. Their pass rate over expectation is – pass rate in general is just so high. So, no, I like that a lot. I need to, focus on some running backs when I come back around. So Kyle Pitts went right after it. Yeah, Justin Herbert usually almost always goes in round 5. It's just a matter of where he goes, in round 5. So he almost made it
so close. I was like, I'm going to get a Justin Herbert, Quentin Johnson right off the back.
Right.
That's okay.
Well, like you said, I love the way you're set up, and I want to do more of that where, you can then set up like, potentially Goff or Rodgers with their top weapon, because I have a lot of Goff and Rodgers not with their top weapon. Like I need more ASB. I need more Garrett Wilson.
Yeah, I didn't have very much Aaron Rodgers before I started watching Run Pure Sports, and then you guys talk about Mecole Hardman, and I was like, okay, maybe I can see it. Then I saw some camp highlights, which again shouldn't deter what I like, but it does. I'm human. I can only,
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
What's your stand on Corey Davis? I kind of like Corey Davis just running the deep balls and running into too wide.
I think he's going to be on the field, but I don't know. He's a decent player. I don't think he's bad by any means, but I don't think he's like great either. So if you
no, I don't. It's not the talent. It's the opportunity. Yeah.
So I feel like in the red zone, it's not going to be him. It's going to be like 9 eyes on Garrett Wilson, and he's going to throw weird fades to him, and sometimes it's going to work, and sometimes it's not going to work. But for Corey Davis, I think it's just going to be like a Marvin Jones type of player where some weeks he's going to get like 6 receptions for 80 yards and a touchdown.
Right.
It'll be, I guess, what the defenses are playing. Like if it's like somebody with 2 good cornerbacks, then he's probably going to get shut down. But if one good cornerback, maybe he has a couple good catches.
Right. So yeah, a lot of the receivers I like go here in this like 6th round, like Lockett. Yeah. I actually like Evans, Jahan Dotson, obviously, Jordan Addison, your pick, Gabe Davis. So yeah, there's a run on basically all the receivers.
If it comes down to between 2 receivers that I like, I typically go with the younger one. Something maybe hasn't shown it or it still could improve.
Mm-hmm.
Which is why I like another person that I'm strong fading is Amari Cooper.
Yep, I don't have much Amari at all. Yeah,
and I get that he fits well with the bring back stack with Garrett Wilson, but that's not how I like to play him. Nick Chubb actually works really well with Garrett Wilson. But.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. That week 17 correlation. I just realized that I don't typically, have my screen share. So I'm like, oh yeah, I'm just showing my queue, but it's like, it's not like we have like a ton of people drafting with us. So it's fine, but I'm a queuer. Are you a queuer or do you just do it from memory of like who you like?
Well, the thing about doing your own rankings is that it is literally everybody I like at the top of the
Oh, that's true.
I don't really have to worry about it. Like I never have to worry about. That's another thing why I think everybody should do the rankings. You don't get auto drafted bad players if you do your own rankings because
that's a good point.
It's your rankings. That's
great. That's a great point. Yeah, like you said, you just push down the guys you don't like.
Right. You don't ever get unless like it's a 40-point fall, and in that case, you're kind of okay with it because it's well past what everybody else is.
Right, exactly.
I could auto draft the whole team, and I'm probably going to like it because Najee Harris and Christian Watson are pushed up so high.
Right. That's so funny. That's a great point, though.
Yeah. Corey Davis feels like a guy that Rodgers will target 3 to every on 3rd and 6th every time. Yeah.
Okay, I'll take that. I
feel like that's Alan Lazard's job, but
I was just going to say, I feel like Lazard could be the chain mover. But I feel like, I just feel like Corey Davis is, like you said, has the opportunity, could be out there a lot. And, Aaron Rodgers just throws a beautiful deep ball. Corey Davis could be a great target on deep balls. So I just think for where he's, again, let's talk about just value. Yeah. For where he's going, you're getting him literally last pick, second to last pick. Yeah. Even on DraftKings, like second to last pick, I think. So.
All
right, so you're up.
Waller. Ooh, tight end dilemma. Or we could literally just do what I talked about, what I like doing, and go with Deshaun Watson and Elijah Moore. But those tight ends are so juicy. I don't know.
Yeah, I know, and I go past that tight end spot a lot just because I do so much of the 3 tight end build later. But hey, that may not be the right call. If late round tight ends is the thing, I'll be sitting pretty. If his middle group is the move, then I might be in trouble. So
all the Darren Waller hype with him just destroying all the small linebackers, and he just gets hurt so often. I like Dallas Goedert, and I think he was a good pick there, but I didn't know what to bring it back with.
Right. No, I love Goddard. I definitely need more Goddard. I probably like Goddard more than Waller, even though I think Waller could be the top receiver from from the Giants because they have so many. But I also really like Hodgins and Slayton on the outside.
Nobody's talking about it, and I don't expect a single person to talk about it until maybe he plays in a preseason game. But the Colin Johnson, he was supposed to be like the wide receiver.
I saw you draft him. Yeah, I saw you draft him with Corain on the show that you did, and I loved it. That was great.
Yeah, and I had about 90% of him. I probably lowered that guy's ADP roughly 10 spots the year that I won it because I was drafting that he was my 200th pick. Like once they hit 200, he was always my guy, like no matter what.
Gotcha.
And, I just believe in his talent. He's 6'4", like 215, 220. He was great in Texas, and it's like he got drafted to the Jags when they were terrible. So then finally he gets an opportunity on a good team, and he was about to be a good team with Trevor Lawrence. They ended up cutting him, and he goes to the Giants, who were terrible that year. And,
right.
And then the very next year they bring in Dayball. Dayball's like making him like the number one there. And he tears his ACL week 3. Oh, it's tough.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So you guys can see what I've queued up. We'll see if it works. Obviously, I had about 17% Tim Patrick. So that obviously sad for Tim Patrick as a human and as a player. That is just a brutal beat and brutal for him. But I do already have some Dulcich and Sutton a good bit, but I'm fine taking, more Sutton. Just think again, opportunity. Their wide receiver core is now very thin. Oh, and he just got taken.
That's okay. You have Marvin Mims that you can always come back with.
Which I don't have really any because I was again Patrick over Mims. I was Tim Patrick over Mims all the way. That was like my stand. So I'm just gonna grab Kirk Cousins because he's not gonna come back to me.
Right.
And then let's see, who do I like?
Jameson threw a punch at a player today, so I don't know if
he did. Oh, awesome. Yeah. Okay.
That one of his teammates, he's frustrated because he's not playing that well right now at practice. Supposedly, again, this could be fun for all I know. I didn't see it, or
You know what? I'm gonna go. I've been heavy on the Ravens. I'm gonna
see. He's one of these guys that I understand that everybody loves him. Apparently in Baltimore, and he's doing really well. I just can't seem to bring myself to draft OBJ this year. One,
really?
He burned me a lot last year. Obviously,
okay.
He didn't play, and I drafted about 15% of OBJ last year.
Right.
And it's a year off, I guess, from the Achilles, but he hasn't played in over a year.
Yeah. It was since the Super Bowl, the 2021 Super in 2022. Yeah.
And I don't know. I like Bateman a lot more, but
it goes Bateman, Beckham, Flowers is how I'm ranking them and drafting them. But I do want to be heavy on the Ravens offense, passing offense in general. And to your point, the Andrews, yes, I love Mark Andrews, but he goes so high. It's almost now impossible to get him with Lamar, or very, very difficult. And so for those reasons, it's just tough. Sorry, I keep forgetting to put up the board. I apologize. But it's just tough to get much Mark Andrews for me because again, it's more the opportunity cost. Who else, I'd have to be giving up. And then the fact, especially not being able to pair him with Lamar, that's been kind of my kind of why I haven't. Do you have much Mark Andrews?
I have 0 now that he goes in the third.
Yeah, he goes so early.
It's fine. I like, and again, I'd rather have TJ Hawkinson with Najee Christian Watson than Mark Andrews, Josh Jacobs.
Yeah, and again, it's some of those
combination of players. Like,
right.
I understand like the bet I'm making, and I know that if Mark Andrews blows up, it's not going to look great for me. But I have plenty of those players where. Yeah, I'm kind of fading them or have barely any, or maybe I have like a couple shares in like the puppy or something like that. Yeah. I definitely have sub shares of
So, but like basically fading them, and if they blow up, it's not going to be great. But then, and that's where I hope then they don't blow up in the playoffs, and then maybe I'll be okay.
Yeah, I think I have I think I went first round Waddle, got Mark Andrews in the second, then Najee, Christian Watson, but it's like. It's a different, unique team, but it's definitely not.
That's different, yeah.
It's not like probably optimal, or
Right.
So.
Okay, so back on the clock. I like that you did the Deshaun Watson, Elijah Moore when you're talking. I definitely want to get some more Elijah Moore, and then of course that correlates with Garrett Wilson.
I don't know what I want to do with my second pick here. I'm gonna go Damian Harris with the first one.
I like that.
So I'm gonna let it run out while I think of what I'm gonna do with my second pick.
Yeah.
This is a tough range. 1-0, 109.
Yeah.
I don't like Dalvin Cook. I don't know why he's on my screen.
I usually do hit running backs here, so I like the Damian Harris pick.
I'm going to go Samaje Perine. I know I'm high on Javonte, and I believe that Javonte is going to be the main running back, but I do think that Sean Payton likes to use 2+ running backs. I've always kind of been a high on Samaje. I would like to get him like in the 120 to 130 range. I don't really care for anything else right there. I could have.
I know sometimes it is just, well, I don't love anything else. So, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that either. Like just going with who you like the most or who you don't like the least or whatever.
I wasn't really drafting Zach Charbonnet in general.
Me neither. I barely had any. I don't think I had any actually of Charbonnet.
Yeah, and I think I drafted him once this past week, and I was like, oh, okay, at least I have my one share, and then immediately gets hurt, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, what was the point?
We're done here.
Yeah, and I want to get one of Love or Jared Goff, and I knew that those guys I could get in the next round. So
right. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes a ton of sense.
And I could have gotten Daniel Jones or Anthony Richardson, which is probably what most people would do there. So.
Well, what is your stance on Anthony Richardson? Because I'm basically out on the rookies, essentially. Where do you stand?
I think that team's going to be a shit show.
Yeah,
and I personally
obviously what this week isn't looking good there.
Right, and then it's got if his value drops any, like I think the Crane and I did a show last week and we got him at like the 120 range. So it's like that's how I feel like he should be in that area. Right. I think the running backs are definitely going to outperform him in this aspect. I guess if you were at 0 at quarterback at that point, you can have a good back stack with Alec Pierce and Josh Downs and what's his face? I can't think of it. Jelani Woods.
Right.
And you could always bring that with if you got a Devontae Adams early. It depends on how you want to build one of those. If you like building for week 17.
Right. Absolutely. Do you do a lot of correlate? So I queued up Juju and McKinnon. So Juju went, just trying to correlate a little with McKinnon was my hero last year, so I'm going to grab him.
I got him in the last round of my first draft on the DK.
Really?
He had no ADP because he was like on a free agent. He was a free agent, and I guess they didn't give him an ADP, and so he was the last draft pick.
Okay.
And that would be something I would suggest for everybody. Well, for anybody that's new to the game. If you are knowledgeable and you are doing drafts throughout the offseason,
right?
Day one drops of like the drafts, get in as many as you can because the ADPs are wildly not correct, and it's like you can take advantage of that very, very.
Do you mean like when BBM opened, right?
BBM and more DraftKings
and DraftKings MillyMaker, yeah.
I got like everybody that's like 15 picks, like off ADP. Currently kind of thing. It's like
right.
And again, Jared McKinnon didn't have an ADP.
That's crazy.
I was just scrolling and it just saw. I was like, oh, that's weird. Like, why is he down here?
Where does so Rice goes? I can't decide on the.
I don't touch Rice. I honestly, I'm kind of fading all of them. And if Sky Moore's there, when I can,
Yeah, he goes so early. It's
now
tough.
He goes pretty early. It's like, okay, well, MVS in the 150 to 60 range. I don't know.
Yeah, it's tough to do Chiefs stacks, quite honestly, because unless you do to me it's Kelsey, Mahomes, and everybody else. So then if you're fading Kelsey, who do you or do you not force anything?
I'm kind of fading Mahomes as well, but if I do, I will reach like a round for Sky, and I'll reach maybe for MVS.
Yeah, I had taken Hardman early in drafts. I don't have much Sky Moore, and now his price is so high, I probably should have a little bit more. I took Rice a little early just because I thought, right after they were talking about he could play that Juju role in the slot. And, at this point, we'll see it, kind of like last year. I think he just spreads it out so much outside of Kelsey.
Yeah.
So that's what's tough for me. So I really don't force it. Like when I can get the Kelsey Mahomes, I've gotten it. And then other than that, I just kind of take who's there and, don't get upset about it if I don't think you have to overstack Mahomes because he spreads it out so much.
Yeah. So I went with Chigakonkwo for a just I like his touchdown.
Right.
Upside,
Oh, especially on
and then I'm going to go take Bigsby here. I don't think that Travis Etienne is actually as good of a running back as everybody makes him out to be.
I don't have. That's another earlier fade. I don't have much ETN at all. I took him a little early, but not much.
And with the running backs that I'm fading early, I'm trying to get like all their backups.
Right.
So I'm going a lot of just hero RB,
right,
and then filling all my back area with their handcuffs. Like Aaron Jones. I love the Packers, but I'm not taking Aaron Jones. I'm taking AJ Dillon, and I like the Jags offense. I'm not taking ATN. I'm taking Tank, and same with the guy that's in Carolina now, Miles Sanders. I'm not taking him. I'm taking Chuba Hubbard. So fading Mixon. I'm getting Chase Brown. Like I'm getting all these handcuffs. Hopefully, like 2 of them pan out, and then I'll be okay.
Now, obviously, at the 109, it would have been early on, like Goff and Rodgers. They both went like around their ADP. Some of them times they do fall the 130s. Were you hoping one of them fell?
Yeah, I was hoping Goff would, but Aaron Rodgers, I wasn't expecting to be there. He usually goes around that area.
Yeah.
But he doesn't go at 109, so it would have been a reach to get him.
Yeah. So I was just wondering how you handled that.
That happens.
But yeah, exactly. Sometimes because it's nice to be able to force get another guy in between. And a lot of times one of them will fall to the 130s. So
I've definitely had. I think I did a draft with the Fantasy Dog Pound. His name's Pat. We ended up getting Rodgers at like a 160 or
there's been some crazy falls sometimes.
Because if you get Alan Lazard and you have Garrett Wilson, there's like no reason to take Aaron Rodgers. And I don't know if did that person have Alan Lazard? No, he just took a naked.
Okay. I mean, I guess you could backstack with like Hardman, Corey Davis,
Tom
Coughlin,
that's his QB1. It just threw me off.
Okay.
Whatever. I mean, if you like Aaron Rodgers, take Aaron Rodgers. So.
Okay.
I'm always like, take your guys. Like, I don't, I don't think anyone, if somebody snipes me, I'm like, that's fine.
This is your
team. So
exactly. Yeah. I don't get I don't do one of those like rants about like, well, I'm going to snipe you, that kind of stuff. It's like, hey, we're all trying to win here.
Yeah.
If that's your move, So
I knew that was like, though, we were in the same draft together. I'm like, oh, she doesn't realize that I'm going to take Laporta here because tight ends is kind of going really fast, and I know that she likes tight ends or likes Laporta, and I love Laporta too. So like,
right. Okay.
I knew we were in a weird battle there, but
yeah. Let's see. I really love Everett this year again. So even though I don't have Herbert, I have 2 of his weapons, so I kind of like that.
I also like getting skinny stacks, and just in general, like it doesn't have to be quarterback.
Exactly. Okay, so then trying to decide here. I think I'm going to go Algier. I still think he's going to get his share of carries in that run-heavy offense, even with Bijan. So he's been like kind of a 4th running back type take for me. So he's not my favorite. It's not like I overwhelmingly love him, but I don't hate it either.
I like Singletary. Well, obviously he was on my. We went over my winning Millie gear.
Yes, there you go. That's right. That's right. That of course, yeah.
I didn't realize that how much I liked the players on the team because I found myself just like drafting them like over and over again, like blindly. Like, oh, I really like this player. I kind of didn't put a reason to it, but like Singletary, it's like, oh yeah, he did win me $1 million.
Yeah. Oh, that's why I love him. Yeah.
Because like the main player everybody focuses on is Najee, of course, because
I
went ahead and made him my 101 last year, while everybody had Jonathan Taylor looked at me like I was crazy, and then Jonathan Taylor's the one that got hurt, and that got hurt. But
what week did Jonathan Taylor go down last year? I'm trying to remember.
Week 6 or week 7.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll remember that because I drafted him in the Resurrection Leagues that was on Underdog last year, and I was like, what was the point of drafting him? Jeez.
This draft's atypical for me. I usually have 5 receivers by now. 5 receivers by now, but just wanting to get those QB stacks or the elite QB. That's what I mean. Like I love the elite QB, but I do love like waiting to at least the Herbert range because you just get that like those solid studs at running back or receiver early. So
I agree.
Whoever Mark M85, good call on the Laporta, like it.
I know. I was kind of hoping he'd fall to me.
Yeah. I had a cue and I was like, there's no way it's making it back to me, but I'll cue it.
There was no way.
I definitely I should have just for my brand and talking about exposures.
When I saw you put Singletary in there, I was like, oh, she's not going to Laporta because it's not getting back to her.
Yeah. I was gonna, once I did Everett, I was like, well, I'll focus on kind of stacking up the Chargers, but because I do believe you can like you said, stack up without having the quarterback situation, and so that was what I was kind of doing. But it hurts me a little inside every non-Laporta draft I have to say. I still love where he's going. I mean, what he went 151 here, so it's not like it's risen to an uncomfortable spot for me. So
all right, I'm gonna go double quarterback here.
Oh, nice.
Jordan Love. And then I'm going to set up something later with Derek Carr. That's the way
I like it.
Probably not going to get Rashid Shaheed. He probably won't follow me. So I've actually been watching, and I'll give it away. If somebody takes it, they take it. A.T. Perry.
Okay.
He wasn't I don't know why he wasn't on my thought process early on, but I watched the highlight tapes. Obviously, there's not much else to watch when you look at him, but he is a big guy. He's explosive.
Mm-hmm.
If Michael Thomas does go down,
right, which
he right, it's his poor ankles don't really, so he could easily be the number one there.
Yeah.
A 4-quarterback run here.
Yeah, that was a big run. The good thing you got your guys there, and I like that you like you said you want to get your Packers. You got the Jordan Love share. I love it. I didn't stay on brand with my Laporta. You stayed on brand with your Packers and Najee. I like it.
Yeah, and the strength of schedule for the Saints and the Packers is they're the top two. Now, again, things are going to change. They're obviously not going to be the same. The 32nd worst defense is not going to be the 32nd worst defense, most likely year over year, but you're giving yourself the better. They're not going to go – not everybody's going to be flipped. It's not going to be everybody's 32-1. So
right. So, exactly. But I still think like last year, being a Washington fan, NFC East had the easiest strength of schedule. You wanted to stack up NFC East, whether it's Philly or Dallas, or, even Washington, some guys like Dotson outperform, so you wanted to stack Giants, of course. You wanted to stack up. So I think there is something to this. I think there's a lot to the strength of schedule. And to your point, NFC South has obviously playing each other, and then the AFC South, super easy schedule.
And the NFC North playing itself it's also they're all terrible defenses up there.
Right.
And I know that everybody else is playing for the $3 million. I'm actually just playing for the regular season. I want to win the regular season. I want to be the title town of the regular season.
I like it. Yeah. Hey, I think that's good. And what do you think is the trick to that? Do you think it's getting the 80, to getting that, hitting that team, the low value team, at the Packers late? What do you think the trick is? Because I know King Capital, he hit on a lot of, it was some of his later round stuff that really hit, right?
I think it's going to be this year. It's going to be, I think this is the way I'm taking it, is the Green Bay stack, the onslaught. It's going to be, that you're going to bounce. The way I think the team onslaught is going to take it down this year. One way or another, it's going to be one person who has the team's onslaught. It's going to be the quarterback, to wide receiver, tight end, and then having the running back for when those weeks don't explode that way. They go through the running game.
Okay.
And I have a feeling, nice pick with the Hodgins and the Gainwell.
Thank you. And, those were two of my guys. I
would love to have more Gainwell. He's never there when I need. I want.
He's risen. He's gone up because he's. I got a lot of him in the 190s, 180s, and then now he's in the 170s, 160s. I'm like, I still, like it. I mean, they trusted this guy in their Super Bowl run. Even though it's a crowded backfield, I still think at this price he has a massive ability to outperform. So back to the regular season, you think a team onslaught is what will take down the regular season?
Not a crazy six players from a team, but 4 to 5.
Yep, which is the sweet spot I love. Yeah.
And I think that is going to be what takes down. It's going to be one of these teams that's unknown, and it's going to be somebody that has 4 to 5 pieces. It could be the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, which most likely it won't be, but like something along those lines, like somebody that had like all these other pieces plus like a super team built around it, kind of thing.
Right, like the studs up top.
Which
then,
I'm playing it to be the Saints or the Packers. That's how I'm going about it. I'm not saying it's going to work, but that's how I'm attacking it.
Yeah, mine probably my favorite. I wouldn't consider them late, but I get some of them late. It would be the Lions if you don't count ASB or Jahmyr Gibbs. Like if you did like Goff, David Montgomery, one of the later receivers and Laporta. I think that's interesting. But again, I want to get a lot more of those Goff stacks with ASB. So that's something.
On DraftKings, I actually was like blessed with a pick 1 through 6. So I don't have very many shares of Amon-Ra St. Brown unless I'm taking him at 5. Which is weird to say that you're taking Amon-Ra at 5.
But again, if you want exposure to
I wanted exposure to him. He wasn't coming back down to the other side of the board.
Right.
I had to reach, which I know it's first world problems when you're trying to complain about not
getting
a player.
Right. But sometimes it is like that's what I'm going through with Chubb and Amon-Ra and Garrett Wilson right now. Sometimes I'm like, oh no, actually maybe I do want a little bit more of that like 10, 11, 12, just because, yes, of course I love the 1 through 5 picks, but that 10, 11, 12, if I want to get more of Chubb, Amon-Ra and Garrett Wilson, well, that's kind of a sweet spot for that. So Dennis said Felix will snipe you.
Yes, I did.
You took a naked Herbert from him, huh?
And I didn't know. Like I was just like, oh, well, if Herbert's here the 5th, I'm going to take him in the 5th, because I always feel like I can backstack. Herbert. So I wasn't paying attention, and he had a very well built Charger stack going on, and I just took it from him. I felt so bad. He had like a 1st round Eckler, a 3rd round Allen, in a 4th round Mike Williams. I don't think I had anything related to it, and that's funny. I felt terrible.
All right, Chase Brown, Luke Musgrave. I love it. You got the Packers stack, which Luke Musgrave has been going. I know he's sometimes been on I pay attention to the risers and fallers list from Underdog, but a lot of times he does go in that 180. So he wasn't coming back to you.
He wasn't going to make it back to me. Also, I want to get A.T. Perry, which he's practically going undrafted.
Right.
And then I was just going to make my last pick like a wild card tight end. I don't know.
Right. Yeah. That makes sense when like kind of, okay, especially at where we're at the 2 ends, you kind of have to plan it like that. So I totally get that. Trying to see what I'm going to do here. So my guy, Sam Howell, went at 183, CJ Stroud off the board. So some more quarterbacks are going here.
That's heading into the queue.
Yeah, so even though I do talk about the 3 quarterbacks, this was not an on-brand draft for me because I don't think I'm going to do 3 quarterbacks in this one with Mahomes and Cousins and the capital I spent there. And some of my favorite late round guys are gone. I have taken some Jimmy or Ritter, but that's about it.
You talking about the 3 quarterback builds like early on, and I'm like, I already knew that I had a 3 quarterback build, but it's like I wasn't like really thinking about it. It's like, why don't I do more 3 quarterback builds? So now I'd say like 90% of my Underdog, and well, I think DraftKings I was already going 3 quarterbacks, but Underdog, I'm like, why? What is like this 6th or 9th wide receiver really going to bring to my team rather than a quarterback that I know is going to play most likely and would get to the offense?
Right. I love it, and I love that you love it. Again, I think we're lacking such data, just 3 years of data that, and a lot of, I think someone made a good point. Let me just decide who I'm going to grab. Actually, I may grab another tight end if there's one I really like here. Let me see. So I've got 13 and 5.
I haven't paid attention to my bye weeks, actually.
13 by week 13 is tough because there's a lot of good tight ends I like in that range. So I don't have much Hardman. I'm going to go ahead and grab Hardman with that one. But anyways, especially on DraftKings with the 20 picks, I love the 3 quarterbacks. But again, even on Underdog, I just love it. And again, like you said about Najee and the guys you love from your winning team, the BBM team, the finals team I had, it would not have even made playoffs, let alone the finals, because I had Dak Prescott, who was out the first 6 weeks. I had Kirk Cousins, who had some down weeks. Carson Wentz was my third quarterback. Only gave me 2 spike weeks, but those 2 spike weeks were what I needed to, without those 2 spike weeks, those particular weeks, Kirk Cousins was not as good. And therefore, my quarterback score would have been lower. My overall score would have been lower. And it wouldn't have been enough because I was the 2 seed. And I know Karane's talked about being the 2 seed too in his pod. And sometimes as that 2 seed, it's a thin razor of being the 2 and making it to the playoffs, or being the 3 and not making it at all. And so, if the 3 quarterbacks is what pushes me into the playoffs, and you and I talk about this, then I just want all the bullets then to get in. So,
what was your winning team? And you did well in BBM3.
What was your winning team?
Okay,
well, I did not have a winning team in BBM3. I had a team that made the BBM3 finals. And so my BBM3 team, it placed out of the 440, it was in the 200s or something like that. I don't know if I've told you this story before, Felix. So I had that Dallas stack. Dallas played Thursday night against Tennessee. Didn't have any run backs with Tennessee, which was fine because Derrick Henry was out. That was a disaster. And Dalton Kincaid goes off for 2 touchdowns at 4% ownership. I'm sitting Thursday night with 1 million, in my account. Now I played.
Oh yeah, I heard that the other day.
So I played DFS long enough to understand, there was still 15 games to be played, and I didn't have 1 million. But boy, sitting with that was nice. But it was a heartbreaker because Zeke got a touchdown. Dalton Kincaid, or I keep saying Dalton Kincaid. Dalton Schultz got 2. Dak Prescott could have had another touchdown to Gallup, but there was a pass interference call. So very frustrating. It could have been a bigger day for Dallas, which would have been just massive for me. So that was tough. But tight ends was awesome with Schultz. Running backs were good because I had Mostert, McKinnon, Zeke still counted for me. Dak was fine. But then Kirk Cousins and Justin Jefferson were god awful. Jefferson caught 1 pass in week 17, and that's all she wrote. And then my other receivers were bad. Carson Wentz came back, so I used the Undertaker gift, and I was like, okay, I've got 3 quarterbacks again. I'm back, and he played awful against the Browns in week 17. Neutered my Washington guys, and then of course Higgins didn't play in the last game. So yes, made the BBM3 finals. Was very excited. Did not have a good run out in the finals, but that officially made me hooked.
So I got second in BBM3 in the quarter or semifinals, and it was one yard away from scoring a touchdown. It was I had a Baker Mayfield play. Jalen Hurts and Zach Wilson were my quarterbacks,
right,
as well as Baker Mayfield. So just he threw a 1 yard pass to Tyler Higbee, and he came up 1 yard short of the end zone. Had he scored that, I would have in the finals. It would put me in the finals. Which again, it wasn't a great team, but I would have been great to be in the finals.
Hey, because anything can happen in the finals, then. Because who were your other quarterbacks?
Hurts and Zach Wilson.
Okay, but you still had Mayfield for week 17.
Actually a really good team. I haven't looked at it in a while, but because I didn't really care for it. But yeah, it had a lot of Buffalo, Cincinnati. So every team I built last year had a lot of Buffalo, Cincinnati on it. Similar to me having a Packer, a Charger, or a Saint on my teams this year. I had a Buffalo or Cincinnati on my team last year.
Gotcha. Yeah. No, I think a lot of us were high on getting some piece of that.
Yeah. And I like another thing is I do like having a piece of the last game now.
Yeah.
Now having that rush of Najee scoring that touchdown. And so I can't not go into my final game not having a piece of that player. I don't know what it is, if it's a mental thing or whatnot, but I have to have a piece of that game.
Right. But what's weird, what's crazy this year is that there's no Monday night game. So the Sunday night hammer is the last game, but
and
you know how
New Year's Eve.
It's New Year's Eve. So yeah, no Monday night game. It's New Year's Eve is the Sunday night hammer, the end of best ball playoffs. And it's New Year's Eve. So we'll know when the clock strikes midnight on New Year's Eve, who wins everything, which is just wild.
If for some reason there's a delay and you don't have to, and you win after the new year, you get a whole year without having to pay taxes on it, which would be nice.
Right. Right. That's true. That's true. Oh, could
Because
you
I didn't have to
imagine?
pay taxes on it. Well, I technically still haven't, but I didn't have to pay taxes on it until this year.
Okay. Gotcha.
Uh,
Gotcha.
Hopefully, me and DraftKings have been in communication for the last 6 months trying to get my 1099 correct, but hopefully I will soon pay my taxes on that. I've been hounding them to get my correct 1099. They said I only won $42,000 a year before, and I'm like, there's a big $960,000 difference
Right.
between I won and lost. But
Okay. For some reason, it did not. Let me go back to
I
it
saw that. It
here.
was weird.
Yeah. It was like my stuff's been weird, but yeah, I got Josh Reynolds as my last pick on
I
brand
saw
for
that. He was on my winning team for the.
Was he really?
Yeah,
Oh yeah, because you had Goff that year, right?
And well, weirdly enough, he was on a Tennessee Titan when I drafted him, and then he got traded
He got traded. That's right.
Back to the Lions. I was like, oh, that works out, but.
Right. Yeah. So
ended up getting
to
COVID or
answer
something.
Devin's question, Felix is the 2021 champion, and that's why I just love talking to Felix about everything best ball and love talking about exposures today. I had the Best Ball Mania 3 team, but didn't do it didn't do great, but we are both just hooked. So yeah. But one other thing, Felix, about the it ending on New Year's Eve and Sunday's the last game. You know how it works with Sunday Flex, right? Like, I mean, we think it's Minnesota Packers, but maybe it won't be. It could another game could get flexed into that thing. So that's what's wild about that is we don't know what's going to be the Sunday night New Year's Eve hammer.
That this past year, it was supposed to be the Chargers versus the Rams, but they flexed it out. So I actually bought tickets to go to that game.
Right, because you're a Chargers fan, right?
I'm a big Chargers fan, and as you can see, and so I was like, oh, cool. It's going to be week 17. I'm going to be in Los Angeles. We're going to be in prime time. It's going to be super cool. And then all of a sudden I have to go to the stadium at like 12 o'clock in the afternoon because they changed it. They flexed it out for, I don't even remember what it was actually the Steelers and the Ravens.
Which
was kind of cool to watch, but.
Right. Devin said to you, the fantasy football is finest, the 1 yard crusher. Yeah. So, but I guess, to your Najee story, we've both been on both sides of good and bad variants, right? I do feel like the last couple of years has been some bad beats for me. So hoping some good variants swings back.
DFS is not treated.
Especially I've had the so close, like those kind of stories, like 5 more yards in the bonus or something like that. Go ahead. What were you guys?
The showdown slate, it's actually been decent to me. But the regular slates have been tough, and I do attribute to I was watching a lot of RPS started last year because I ran into Big T, Tournament of Champions, and I started watching more RPS after that. But
he does really great showdown shows. I'm on the Sunday night one, but he does the Monday and Thursday showdown shows and great showdown content. And I honestly, each year goes by, I think I like showdown more and more than even classic. Yeah.
And I feel like people who play basketball currently also mainly like showdown because you're telling a story. And I feel like all the people that like best ball are telling a story throughout the entire season. That is what they like to see. And they're so if you break it down, it's just like a story that you're telling for one game series, and that's it.
Exactly. Well, I hope our story, Felix, is lots of two Lions Packers shootouts because we're both high in those teams.
Yes.
But let's review our teams real quick and then we'll get on out of here. This is abnormal, not on brand for me. Again, I usually do 3 quarterbacks. I did a 2-6-8-2 Mahomes Cousins, but again, I stacked it with Jefferson and TJ Hawkinson, and then didn't really force any Mahomes stacks. Just got him with McKinnon. Sure. Because none of them really fell right to me. So it's fine. Still feel like my running backs were solid, but I didn't feel super great about them. So that's why I took the opportunity to go with 6 guys I like, which Dameon Pierce, David Montgomery, Jerick McKinnon, Tyler Algier, Kenneth Gainwell, Gus Edwards. And then, loved my first 3 receivers, especially with Jefferson, Ridley, Mike Williams, Beckham, Gallup, Isaiah Hodgins, McCole Hardman, Josh Reynolds, and then Gerald Everett is my same. Wanted to just get access to teams I like Detroit and the Chargers, and kind of like my guy Dallas with Gallup. So, any critiques for my team? I'm open to hear.
I'm not a fan of Gallup or Hodgins at the very end, but I think your running backs actually killed it at running back, and your receivers you got early. will probably carry your team for the most part. And
yes.
I like your running backs. I draft a lot of the same ones. And then, I mean, I'm personally just not a fan of Gallup and Hodges, but somebody is. So it's like,
yeah.
And they play each other. So that kind of works out too.
Right. That's right. Is that week 15?
No. I don't know. I just know that they play each other throughout the season.
Twice. Yeah. I can't remember if they're in each other's playoff schedule. I am trying to remember more of the 15-16 stuff as well. So let's check out your team. So you want to talk about your team and your thought process?
Sure. I got, I'm going to read it down from the list. I got Garrett Wilson, Amon-Ra, Najee Harris, which is a fairly, and Christian Watson, which is a fairly, best ball nation start for me.
Yeah.
That's pretty on brand for me. And then Gabe Davis, I reached a little early for Gabe Davis and Jordan Addison, but I knew that the room that I'm kind of in with Paul in here, I knew that probably one or both of those players may not make it back to me.
Right.
And then I had a Deshaun Watson, Elijah Moore here, and I had to make that decision between the two tight ends. But I wanted a potential top 5, top 10 quarterback before there's a quarterback run, and I'm just left with nothing.
Right.
And then I like the Buffalo Bills running back situation. I do think that they're going to try to take some load off of Allen. So Harris has has more upside, I think, this year. And we talked about Samaje Perine earlier. I think Chico Conco has a lot of touchdown upside.
Right.
And I'm playing as we talked about earlier, I want all the backups to all the starting running backs. So I got Take Bigsby, Chase Brown at running back. And let's see here. Jordan Love, you
double tapped the quarterbacks there. I like that.
The quarterback. Ended up getting Jordan Love with Christian Watson and Luke Musgrave, and then I ended up only pairing one player, a little skinny stack towards the end with Derek Carr and A.T. Perry.
Got it.
Got Noah Fant as my last tight end, for my third tight end, to week 17 correlation with Najee Harris.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, so Seattle, Pittsburgh. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm with you about that. I like the skinny stack sometimes too. You don't always have to force it with the quarterback if you can get some of those skinny stacks. I think that's really, really interesting. So, well, Felix, this has been so much fun. I am so grateful for you coming on, talking about exposures. You're getting me thinking more and more about that. And this last month, like you said, adjust the ranks every day, you're looking at your exposures every day to see where you want to, make some moves. So this has been very beneficial for me. So thank you. Be sure to follow Felix at Crying Buffalo. And thank you guys so much for joining me and Felix. Be sure to hit the like button on the way out and subscribe button and check out all our content on fanspeak.com. Thank you guys so much. And we will see you next time.